2000 comes to London, to the British Empire, now greatly reduced in the 20th century, of course. A tiny island nation that fought in 2 world wars, led by one of the great figures of the 20th century, Winston Churchill in the Second World War, a man who will live on forever. A constitutional monarchy that has undergone its own trials, especially in most recent years. But still a dynamic political, cultural, economic, and stylish nation, making so many contributions, wondering what lies ahead for the English-speaking people of the British Isles. Bridge, one of the familiar landmarks for awaiting the ignition, literally, of the Thames River. The Millennium Dome, where this celebration, the largest domed construct anywhere in the world, we're told. This celebration will go on until dawn. Think back in the early days of the 1940s when Britain was under daily attack from Nazi Germany, wondering whether it would have to stand alone. Not have anticipated at the turn of the century that it would be able to send this kind of a message to the world. Modern young Prime Minister Tony Blair, traditional monarch and Queen Elizabeth, who has suffered her own horrible years, as she has described them, the death of Diana, the divorces within the family, the whole question about the place of monarchy in Britain. All that set aside tonight for the celebration. I must say that London can make a pretty good claim to the title this evening based on what we have seen thus far. Let's go down now to Dan Abrams, Times Square here in New York, where there are large screens and everyone is watching. Dan?
Well, Tom, so far just one big party here in Times Square, a day-long party as cultures around the world, like in England and other nations, celebrate the Millennium. So too does Times Square, with token celebrations of those local cultures. Now, as for security here in Times Square, about 8,000 police officers on hand just here in the Times Square area, many of them in riot gear. That's nearly twice as many as were here last year. But that's not particularly surprising, since there are nearly 4 times as many people expected. So far, the police officers have been engaging mostly in crowd control, making sure that people stay in certain areas, making sure that certain areas can have emergency vehicles going by, and so far, so good. Tom?
Thank you, Dan Abrams. We're going back to London now, watching this spectacular fireworks display. The Eye of London, that giant Ferris wheel that they could not put people on for safety reasons back inside the Millennium Dome. Earlier, the Archbishop of Canterbury presided at services at St. Paul's Cathedral. To show you the river of fire, we're going to go away for just a moment now. We'll be back with more from London and around the world on this dawn of a new age right after this.
It's time to celebrate Cleveland as a city on the move, a city of hard-working people and close-knit families. Cleveland stands as a city of the future, from the east side to the west side and everywhere in between. Now, as part of Cleveland 2000, First Energy invites you to the Millennium of Light celebration this New Year's Eve at Public Square. Join us for the lighting of the world's largest light bulb, fireworks, and live entertainment. First Energy. Our energy is working for you.
Good evening. Happy New Year. I'm Jeff Maynard. We'll get back to the party on Public Square in just a few minutes. First, as this year ends, some important developing news. A lot has been said about the so-called Y2K bug. But as Channel 3 News reporter Phil Hayes shows us now, most systems tonight are Y2K okay.
The critical test for airports everywhere came at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. That was the international stroke of midnight in the airline world. As that aviation turn of the century came and went, computers at Cleveland Hopkins and Burke Lakefront airports held up. And Y2K concerns all but vanished.
No, I mean, I wouldn't want to be flying overseas or to New York, but Fort Myers, I don't see any problem.
We reached most major banks, all claiming business as usual late into the evening. No problems reported. And it was all systems go at Cleveland Public Power and the Illuminating Company. With Y2K preps in place, no problems reported there. Or at the Water Company. And Ameritech continued to watch for Y2K problems, but reported all systems operating normally there. And if you're wondering if your personal computer is Y2K ready, the designer of the WKYC website says there's still time before midnight to find out.
Go into your computer and reset the time for 11:58 p.m. and let it roll through those 2 minutes, and once it hits midnight, you'll realize if you have any problems or not.
Phil Hayes, Channel 3 News, Cleveland.
Get a feel for the international flair and how huge this event is around the country. Take a look.
People have been celebrating.
So tonight I'm gonna party like it's 1999. Celebration. Let's all celebrate and have a good time. Everybody have fun tonight. Everybody have fun tonight. Let's do the music. Let's do the music. You know you make me wanna kick my heels up and down, throw my hands up and down, throw my head back and down. Come on now.
1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rock. 9, 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, rock. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. Time.